Okay. Good morning. Would you please take your seats? And welcome to this symposium with the theme Retrieving the Past, Historians and Their Sources, with the two laureates of the David Prize for Time Past, Peter Brown and Alessandro Portelli. We open the symposium with words of greeting from Professor Aviad Kleinberg.
Thank you, Jonathan. In the preface to the slim comic masterpiece, 1066 and all that, the authors Seller and Yateman state, history is not what you thought. It is what you can remember. All other history defeats itself. How true. Of course, one could and perhaps should say a thing or two in praise of self-defeating ventures, but that might get us desperately entangled in a nasty paradox. Is it deliberately auto-defeat self-defeating? What if we succeed? Too philosophical. We are here to talk history, after all, not philosophy. History that we can and want to remember. Our two guests today, fresh laureates of the David Prize, Professor Peter Brown and Professor Alessandro Portelli, have made memorable, indeed unforgettable, large tracts of history that were, prior to their arrival, not memorable, in italics, of course, as Seller and Yateman insist. I'm here to praise our guests. Praise is not easy, as it might seem. Superbia, invidia, and vanagloria stand in the way. But on this occasion, their modern protests are barely audible. Our guests are great historians. When we sat in judgment at the prize committee, we all felt that their contributions to historical writings were beyond dispute. That even though they were not working in the judges' fields, they have both taught us important lessons, and more surprising perhaps, have given us many hours of sheer intellectual pleasure. Unbeknownst to him, Peter Brown has been a major influence on my own work. In my second year at the Tel Aviv University, I read his masterful biography of St. Augustine and was hooked. Brilliant, original, vastly erudite, he has shown me, in this and in subsequent two books and articles, that one can deal with the complexity of social-cultural processes. For the most important aspects of Brown's work, revealing hitherto unknown connections between seemingly unrelated historical facts with elegance and warmth. Understanding history a la Brown is not an unpleasant medicine that one must swallow because it is good for you, but a delicacy one wishes would never end. I have learned from Brown. In my own fashion, I tried to imitate him. The results, sadly, remain debatable. I came late to the work of Alessandro Portelli. He deals, after all, with the one method that is totally inaccessible to historians studying the pre-modern world, oral history. And yet, once I have discovered him, I realized that in a postmodern world, he has much to teach us pre-moderns. Portelli asks some of the biggest questions of history. What is it bystanders consider, what is it that we consider memorable? What are the things that eyewitnesses and bystanders consider worthy of memory? Igna memoriae, to use Isidore of Seville's turn of phrase. Why do people stubbornly insist on remembering what we, professional historians, consider unimportant and forget what we consider self-evidently important? These questions, examined by Portelli with depth and sophistication, with an impressive respect for informants, are not important just for students of resistance and collaboration in World War II or of labor struggles in Italy and the United States, but to every historian. Indeed, to every person interested in the infinitely complex ways in which we create and recreate our reality. One could say much more about our guests and my colleagues. My colleague and friend Jonathan Price will say a little more. But oral history should not make us forget the great pleasures of reading texts, their texts. Tolite, legite, take up and read. One can never stray too far from the path listening to, or rather reading, Augustine. I have said enough. Greeters should not overtax their listeners' patience and goodwill. You came here to hear our guests, not me. We welcome Professors Brown and Portelli. We are honored in their honor. We have been made wiser by their wisdom. We eagerly await their words.
Thank you, Aviad.